Hey TMFG community, Carlo Cancino here with John Iaconetti. And in today's Ask TMFG episode, we'll be discussing household debt, the different types, what to get rid of first, and how to utilize them the best way. So again, if you do like our content, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please provide us with a comment or just give us a like. In today's episode, we'll be discussing household debt. What are the different types, how to use them wisely, and how to get yourself out of debt. So John, why don't you take it from here?
Absolutely. So we'll get us started with a couple facts, and we know that a lot of people have been dealing with a lot of debt in Canada. And in 2022, the Canadian mortgage debt is reaching over $2 trillion in Canada. Exactly, pretty substantial amount. I'm sure you guys have realized with real estate prices going up, in order to afford those houses, you're going to have to start beginning to take on a bit more debt. Now with interest rates on the rise, now we're trying to think of how do we get rid of that debt, right?
Exactly.
How do we get rid of it as fast as we can? But it's not just mortgages that are affecting Canadians. It's also other forms of debt. And another big one is consumer debt. The average credit card balance in Canada is sitting around $4,000, and about 83% of all Canadians above the age of 15 have a credit card, which is good. We want you to have a credit card. We want you to start building up that credit. But what we're not liking is that average of $4,000 balance reoccurring and living on and accruing interest over time.
Yeah, and that's not surprising at all, especially over the last 18 months when we've talked about inflation running sky high, income not necessarily increasing at the same rate as goods and services. So something's got to give. If what you're buying on a regular basis is increasing more than what you're earning, yeah, you may not have enough disposable income to buy the same amount of goods and services that you previously did. So there's the credit card that you're using. Balance stays on it. You're unable to pay it all the way. Maybe you have a couple of credit cards that have balances and you want to consolidate. Now you've got a consolidation loan or a line of credit with a balance that's paid off the line of credits. It's like a never-ending cycle if you're spending more than what you're actually bringing in.
Yeah, and you touched on it right there with a couple of the different types of debts, and we'll kind of, summarize them for you, and we'll start with credit cards or consumer debt, and that's more of the day-to-day transactions. Most people are going to be familiar with a credit card. Obviously, the pros to that is ease of access, right? Now we can tap a card and pay, or it's in Google Pay or Apple Pay on your phones. Very great ease of access. The downside to that is going to be very high rates of interest if you do end up incurring quite a bit of debt there.
People who have credit cards must be very disciplined because it's revolving credit. I mean, you use it, you pay it off. You use it, you pay it off. But if you use it more than what you can pay off, then that's when the balance starts to accrue. Starts to accumulate and interest starts to accrue. And the interest rate on credit cards are upwards of 20%, 24% in some cases. So it even says on the credit card statements, when you've got a balance on it, it actually tells you the amortization of how long it's going to take to pay off.
Yeah.
You could be into the tens of thousands of dollars of balances, and it could take over 20, 25 years to pay off a credit card.
That's when people throw out that credit card statement and pretend like it never existed.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way.
Yes.
And a lot of people now have started getting into other forms of debt, which is more like line of credit, which again, you can get through your banking provider. Some line of credits are either unsecured, which tend to have a bit of a higher rate of interest, or they're secured maybe on a large asset like your home with a bit of a lower rate of interest. Those are typically more for larger purchases, maybe home renovations, maybe something along those lines, car purchase, something like that. Although the interest rate is lower, still really at a higher elevated rate now because interest rates have remained high. And I guess the last one is the big one, the mortgages that a lot of people have been dealing with. We led with that off the top, over $2 trillion of debt for Canadians on mortgages. So those are the three major sources of debt. Now, what can we start doing to pay down those three sources?
Absolutely, John. So if you're finding yourself not being able to catch up with your credit card payments or your line of credit payments, consolidation is key. And essentially what you want to aim for is eliminating the debt at the highest rate. So I mentioned it earlier. With credit cards, they can be upwards of 20, 25%. If you've got balances that you're finding it hard to pay off, maybe a consolidation loan or a line of credit to consolidate all that debt onto that is at a lower rate. Yes, you'll still be paying interest on it, but you could be saving yourselves 10, 15% on the balance that you're slowly paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so that's a great way to get it all together, get it at a lower rate. But now we actually even start thinking about paying that down, right? And I'm always going to bring it back to the point of budgeting, right? And knowing what you're bringing in versus what's going out, and earmarking a certain amount of your regular income to go towards that debt repayment. Some people have that going towards savings. Maybe they may be debt free, or maybe have got their debt paid down to a reasonable level. If your debt is in this scenario where it's been out of control and you want to try to get it under control, start treating it like a savings plan, treating it like a regular expense that you may have to help pay down that debt.
Yeah, I find that the automatic savings or automated debt repayment are the easiest way to cut down the principal, reduce the interest, and you'll just, before you know it, you'll know that it looks as though it's paid off.
Absolutely. And then there's a couple other scenarios. If you're in a position or a job where maybe you get a bonus quarterly or annually, and that's not an amount of money that you would need, maybe start thinking about making lump sum payments down to like a line of credit or credit card, or maybe a mortgage. Having that mortgage start to get paid down, because renewal dates are upcoming, and obviously we don't want to see that interest rate skyrocket, and therefore payments have to go up as well. So utilizing some of those tactics, as well as when tax season rolls around, you get a nice tax refund. Utilizing that to help start paying down debt as opposed to spending it on clothes or shopping or travel or something like that.
That's a good point, John. We recommend that you go to your financial institution and find out if you were to increase your payments by $25 a week, $50 a week. What is that going to do to your amortization? You'll find that you might be even blown away at how much interest you will actually save over the length of the amortization of the mortgage, and how much you will be cutting down on principal. So maybe by just earmarking an extra $50 a month or $50 bi-weekly, you'll see how much time you can save on that mortgage.
Absolutely. But I think we gave you guys some pretty helpful tips today on how we can start to reduce that amount of debt. I know a lot of Canadians are worried about that, and we've been getting a lot of questions about that within our practice as well. So let us know down in the comment section below, what steps are you taking to begin to reduce the debt that you've been incurring the past several years, and hopefully you're starting to scale back those spending habits. But until next time, I'm John Yoconetti.
I'm Carlo Cancino.
And this has been
Ask TMFG.